Welcome to this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Today's program, we're talking about a very unique event that's coming to the city of Suffolk, the Walk to End Alzheimer's, coming up in mid-September, an event that you definitely want to take part in because it's all about community. Stay tuned. Welcome back to On the Scene. Today we're talking about the Walk to End Alzheimer's, certainly a great cause and a great event in a great city right here in the city of Suffolk on September the 16th. And to talk about this year's event and to talk about Alzheimer's in general, we have to join us today, of course, our mayor, Linda Johnson, and also Gina Columbaro, who's with the Southeast Virginia chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, excuse me for that. But again, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, the big event's coming up Saturday, September the 16th. But before we get to talk about the event, let's talk about really kind of what is going on now as far as with the Alzheimer's Association. And Gina, you said before we tape there was a big international conference recently. If you could share some details on that and kind of what's going on with that, and also some great news on the funding front.
Most definitely. Well, we recently completed our Alzheimer's Association International Conference in London in July, and it was the biggest attended conference that we've ever hosted. Over 5,700 researchers from around the world. That in and of itself indicates the urgency of the cause, not just in the United States, where we have about 5.4 million Americans affected by the disease, but worldwide, where we have over 44 million. So this is a definite cause that is getting a lot of attention, not just locally, but worldwide. And out of that, a lot of great research on the horizon. In fact, the association just funded through its research program a $20 million project to really look at prevention through exercise, healthy eating, healthy diet, things of that nature. It's a conduit to a study that took place in Finland a couple of years ago, which those researchers reported out at the conference as well. So the goal obviously is to find an effective treatment by 2025, which is not too far down the road.
No, it isn't.
And people are confident, researchers are confident that with the proper funding, the fuel to support the research initiatives, that we will be able to make some initial breakthroughs, at least with that. Also on the federal level, we have in just 2 short years increased our federal research funding to the National Institutes of Health by $750 million. So that increases Alzheimer's research funding at the federal level is now at $1.4 billion, which is a significant and unprecedented increase, which again goes to the point that there is an urgency for the cause.
Of course, when we talk about Alzheimer's disease, we're talking about it's the leading form of dementia, which
most
again,
common
form, I should say. And again, when we're talking about dementia, we're talking about anything that, well, you actually define what dementia is.
Well, dementia is an umbrella term, and it defines, it signifies cognitive impairment that might affect your daily activities of life. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. Alzheimer's is a progressive degenerative disease of the brain. Doesn't get any better, unfortunately. And it actually prevents people from actually retaining information, learning new things, and ultimately maybe recognizing loved ones or people dear to them. So there are many, many forms of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common form. But dementia really signifies some type of cognitive impairment. And it could be as mild as mild cognitive impairment all the way up to Alzheimer's disease.
And I think that's the thing right there that you just hit on, was the fact that really it affects everyone in different ways. There's no common path from point A to point B, so to speak, with that. And I guess that's the thing where everybody's situation is so different. And I think it's certainly diagnosing it as best that you can, and then dealing with whatever means that are available right now to help with things. And I think I'd read statistically that Alzheimer's disease is ranked, of course, in the top 10 of causes of death in the United States, but it's the only cause of death that is not preventable, at least currently preventable.
Well, and also, we don't know what causes it, and we can't slow it down.
That's right.
So, you know, exponentially, the number of people with the disease increases every year. Just in the state of Virginia, we have 140,000 people affected with the disease today. By 2025, we're going to have 190,000 if it stays status quo. So you can imagine just the emotional and the financial impact associated with that exponential growth.
Correct.
And I think you touched on some very important diagnosis. So when people are seeing signs that are affecting their daily activities of life, that it might be memory, cognitive related, it's really important to go get it evaluated quickly by someone who is experienced in that type of assessment, because you might be dealing with something that is nothing near Alzheimer's or dementia. It could be a deficiency in vitamin B12. You might be experiencing some mini strokes, things that you can address. Also, depression provides signs of, exhibits signs of dementia. So if you can, identify what's causing the issue, you might be able to address it. And even if it is some type of form of dementia, there are certain medications now that you can go on that at least will create hopefully a plateau for a period of time. They're not the end-all answer, unfortunately.
I understand. And of course, so, really that's sort of what brings us here today to talk about the event we're talking about. Again, the Walk to End Alzheimer's, the Suffolk edition, so to speak, is on Saturday, September the 16th, be at Constance Wharf Park and Marina. And Mayor Johnson, if you talk about your involvement and relationship with the event, and I guess really why it's so important to you.
Well, the event is just it's a really heartwarming thing to be a part of, because what it does is it brings you together with people that are dealing with the disease, not just the patient, but also the family, the caregivers, the people around them, who people don't understand the stress level that they live under in having to take care of this and having to be kind of that person's main person. So for me, it's just a time when everybody comes together, everybody realizes you're not alone. That's very important for us to know, that there are other people around us that can be with us and assist us. I think also the association does an awesome job of giving folks ideas of what they can do, where they can go for help, what they can do on maybe a small level or a bigger level, and also to be a part of the whole function of raising the money, getting the awareness, getting the federal dollars. All of that is so important, because we're really not going to get to that cure without all of that coming together. So for me, it's kind of a personal thing. I've had friends, neighbors that have been affected. I have a 94-year-old mom who is sharp as a tack, and so I feel grateful every day. But I also, in visiting her, I see more and more of this. And I also know that we have a situation where I'm not sure we'll ever have enough places of memory care units for our patients. So it's very important that we get ahead of this and see if we can stop this trend.
And of course, I know the walk is a big part of that, as far as taking that first step, literally and figuratively, in working toward that. And Gino, talk about some of the nuts and bolts with the event. So again, it's taking place on the 16th, but how can people take part? How can people get signed up? And talk about also what's going to happen the day of.
Well, first I want to say the mayor is a great advocate for those who are dealing with the disease, and is always an integral part of our walk. She kicks it off every year and does it as super.
It's a pleasure.
Well, we love having you there, and it makes a difference, because you represent the community here, and to really be that advocate is very important. But people can sign up for the walk, because it is about creating community. It's about making sure that people don't feel alone. So they can go to alz.org/walk. And just put in their zip code, and they'll get it to the walk that they want. They can register. Once they do, they'll get a welcome email. They'll be able to develop their own personal website to do the fundraising, put their personal story on, put the photos of their loved ones on, and make it very personal, because it is a personal thing. That's why people participate. And the day of the walk, people will have the opportunity to come around 8:30 to register, sign in. The ceremony begins around 9:30, 9:40, and the walk actually begins at 10 o'clock. And we have a wonderful promise garden ceremony with flowers that are representative of all those people, caregivers, people affected now with the disease, advocates, and those who have lost someone to the disease. And this year we're also going to be unveiling a new flower. So people will want to come out for that, because it's going to be very inspirational, and it really brings home the point of why we are all coming together to really put an end to this disease. So it's a great opportunity just to create community, to really get connected, not only with the services that we provide, which are all free, thanks to the funding for through the walks, but also the wonderful community resources that are available here, because it takes a community. It's not just the Alzheimer's Association. It's many, many facets working hand in hand to help people navigate the maze of this disease. And that's what the walk is all about, is creating that awareness and also those funds to move forward. It also gives people the opportunity to actually become an advocate, to help us get more research funding to address this disease. Our goal is to get 2 billion.
Right.
And we're on our way. We are on our way. So there's a lot of great things happening. Also, we have a 2016 Camry SC that will be raffling off. People can get books of tickets and who are registered for the walk and use it as a fundraiser, sell tickets for $5. And we're really fortunate on a national level, and I know they're here locally as well. Edward Jones is a national sponsor, and Bayport Credit Union is our regional sponsor. Yeah.
It takes everyone to kind of work together. We talk,
It does.
community is the big word I
Right.
again continue to hear come out here. And Mayor, you'd mentioned the fact that when people come to the walk event, whether you've been to one before or not, the fact that there are resources there that you can get a lot of great information. You realize that if you're handling it as a care provider right now, that you're not alone. And I think that's the important thing to know, because sometimes just knowing that someone else can understand, I guess, the situation that you're in, and everyone's is unique, certainly, but the fact that other people are dealing with the issues and the challenges that come forth sometimes, and giving you some hope that, again, you have people that can relate. And I think sometimes that's the most important thing.
Well, I think it's important to remember, too, that while Alzheimer's, it is a cause of death,
Yes.
but more importantly, this is about living with the
Yes.
disease.
Yes.
And I had a dear friend who was diagnosed at 58 and just passed on at 82.
Right.
So she had a great number of years to deal with and live with this disease, and to the best, that could possibly be.
Of course.
So it's important that we let people know everything that's out there in the community for them and for their families.
And when we talk about Alzheimer's, I think one of the statistics that always comes out to me that I'm always amazed by is the fact that I believe, if I'm correct on this, 2/3 of those with the disease are women.
Yes.
And not to say that we
Right.
think it's a man's disease or a woman's
Right.
disease, but realize that that is a fact, and that is
Right.
something that and I guess when you start getting into the why and the how and trying to come up with a cure or preventative medications or things that may exist hopefully for us one day, I mean, I'm sure these are the things that are being factored into that research to determine
definitely.
why this, why that, and how these things kind of come together to click, right?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, that's what research is all about.
Right.
And there's so many different levels, and not only on the federal level, but also the association is the largest not-for-profit funder for Alzheimer's research, next to the federal government and China, believe it or not. We rank third.
Okay.
So we're able to do those kind of innovative type of research as well that maybe the NIH can't do. And we're a little more nimble in terms of funding that.
Sure.
So yeah, there are many facets to this disease, and that's what makes it so complicated and challenging to deal with it. So really, the treatment today is the education, is the connectivity, it's the community.
Right.
It's reaching out before a crisis occurs.
Right.
And being able to address it with people who are empathetic and very knowledgeable about what to do and create an action plan. And that's what I think the walk is a catalyst for, of course.
Now, I'm just curious. I had older parents. My mother's still with us. My father had passed away. But was Alzheimer's, and I think about this in relation to him because I believe, or at least our thinking is that he suffered with this later in his years. But was it, did it always exist? Because sometimes you have to put a name on something and define what it is to know that it exists. But in times when I talked with them about their relatives and things, they just got old, or that's what goes. Is that sort of always been sort of the generic phrase, and this was always around?
I think that's the beauty of this knowledge and
know,
information we
right.
have, because I think it's exactly what you said.
Right.
I think it did exist.
It did.
And I
Right.
think people just clearly did not know.
Right.
They didn't have the answers that we have today, or the diagnoses that we have today.
Right.
You talk about the women and the men. A
Right.
big part of that, I believe, is that men are slower to go and get diagnosed than women.
Yeah.
That's part of it,
So, again, the education of it and understanding that you need to understand what's happening to
Right.
you or to your loved one.
Sure.
But I think you're absolutely right. I
Right.
look at my grandparents and I look back, we called it old timers.
Right,
So
exactly,
I just
exactly,
think,
yeah.
again, we're more aware, we have more
Yes.
knowledge, and knowledge is power. So that's
Yes.
what we need to do.
Yeah, and believe it or not, it was first diagnosed in 1907.
Oh,
There you
wow.
go.
Okay. There, okay.
So by Dr. Alois Alzheimer's, for which
Which
it's
is where the
named
name
for.
comes from,
And
right.
I think, really, it used to, you would hear it called more as senility, vascular
Yes,
dementia, which
exactly.
are
Right.
still, parts of dementia,
Right.
but
Right.
they take different pathways through the brain. The ultimate
Sure.
destination is the
Right.
same.
Yes.
But really, it's been in the last 30 so years that really we put the name on it,
Right.
Alzheimer's, because we see the pathology of what's actually going on in the brain, and we've learned so much more. I mean, now we're able to pretty much definitively diagnose what type of dementia.
Got it.
We couldn't do that 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
I was going to say, that wasn't even around 15 years ago.
Right.
My grandmother,
Right.
you know,
Right.
went to have me tested. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
so you know, and they came back saying she was fine, and you know, so it's,
Right.
you know, again, it's just.
Right.
It's just learning.
Right,
Is
and,
what
and
it
knowledge,
is.
and if you
Knowledge.
could define what it is, understand what it is, then you
can cope.
There you go, and move
Exactly.
forward and deal with what you've got to handle, as opposed to just kind of putting it off in this box or that box or whatever and saying whatever. I was just curious historically how that
Sure.
fit in there, just reflecting on it there. So what is next in the research? What do we see around the corner? What do we see? You talked about the conference, you talked about the funding, but what's happening next that you see?
Well, I see, you know, there are a few trials that are in the third phase to help deal with the progression or slow it down or help, you know, stop it in
Right.
where it is now.
Yes.
But also there's a lot of focus on biomarkers. That's a big focus to really, like cholesterol, to really identify those biomarkers that might indicate you will be at risk of developing Alzheimer's
Yes.
disease. Because science has realized that those who will ultimately get Alzheimer's disease, it's beginning to formulate 10 to 15 years before you see it outwardly. You see the outward signs. So again, prevention.
Right.
If we can address it early on, if we can identify those biomarkers and then treat it just like we do with high blood pressure,
Sure.
then we can control it and
Right.
people can live long lives and productive lives, you know. So that's the key. Biomarkers is definitely
Right.
A big focus in research right now.
Well, reflecting back on the walk, I'd like to hear from both of you on this as far as people that maybe have not taken part in an event like this before. It's not the first time it's happened in Suffolk, and I know it's going on throughout Hampton Roads
Right.
and the Southeast Virginia region. I think
Right.
you said we're the first of the 6 events, I
Six
believe?
events,
okay.
correct.
So again, we're proud to be the
Right.
leader right there,
Absolutely.
and that's the way
Absolutely.
we look
Yeah.
at it here in Suffolk, certainly. But what you would say to someone to encourage them to participate, to come out on whatever level that they're going to participate. Certainly we want people to walk and to help raise money, but also if somebody's just coming out there to kind of see what's going on. You know, again, see what resources are there. Talk to people who maybe are going through similar situations, or people who are, you know, offering some information, again, getting that diagnosis in, and then realizing that you talked about the biomarkers, that sharing that information where you can really start to look at things. What would you say to someone who's considering coming and says, well, yeah, I don't think I'm doing anything that Saturday. Maybe I want to, but this is really important. I guess I'd offer to both of you to kind of give me your
Hey, you wanna
feedback
start
on
off?
Well, I'd start
why.
out by saying, you know, Suffolk is really focused on healthy. We have really put a whole tremendous
Yes.
package together on Healthy Suffolk.
Right.
This is a part of that. But more importantly, I think for people that have never been before, and possibly some people don't want to talk about Alzheimer's or face Alzheimer's,
Sure.
the number of conversations that go on low key in that walk and in that whole morning, you may get some questions and answers that you never even thought about, you know, by coming and being a part of it. And again, just being a part of something. You know, I can't tell anyone how good they will feel when they walk away, whether they walked or they went to the Garden of Flowers or
Right.
whatever they've done, they will feel a part of something very, very special. And who knows, you know, out years to come, we may look back on these walks and say, you know, that was a part of that we found the answer.
Correct.
So it's just something to be proud of
Sure.
and something to really, I love being a part of it, and I would encourage everyone to come out and take part in that morning.
Good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is about that community. It's about too many people feel alone with this disease. And when you're able to talk to somebody who's going through it, then you realize, oh my, I'm not alone.
Right.
Or I don't, you know, I can talk to somebody who understands. And that's very important. So being connected in that regard is really essential. Understanding all the services that we can provide.
Right.
You know, and what's local here, you know,
Sure.
support groups, things
Yes.
of that nature.
Yes.
Extremely important. And I would say the most important thing is, from being a caregiver for my dad who had Alzheimer's, is I'm really proud to be part of the legacy to put an end to this disease. So we each have that part
Right.
to be part of that legacy. And that legacy is around the corner to really be able to save many lives. And so I would encourage everyone to really go to alz.org/walk and register for the walk. We really need your support. We need those numbers out there. You know, the city should be very proud. Last year it exceeded its goal by raising over $76,000
Yes.
Yep.
That's awesome.
for the Western Tidewater
Yes.
Walk. And this year our goal is $87,000.
Okay.
And I know we'll make it.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
are gonna make it.
I know we will. But it takes all of us coming
Yes.
together. So I would really, really encourage everyone to get on that website. Or, most important, too, very easy, just call our 800-272-3900 24-hour, 7-day-a-week helpline. You can also be directed through them on how to register for the walk. And or just, or we'll call you back and we'll help you walk you through it. But it's simple. It's
Perfect.
easy, and believe it or not, the more you talk about it, the more people want to support you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it is about creating that legacy to put an end to this disease.
Now, if someone wants to sign up, do you have to be part of a group, or can you do it as an individual?
You can either way.
Either way. Okay,
You
perfect,
can
good.
set up a
We're
team.
not turning
I was
anybody
gonna say,
away.
That's right. We're not turning anyone
Yeah,
away.
that's right.
That's right. Right. And if you raise 100 or more, you get a T-shirt.
Very good. Very good.
So those are always very popular.
That's right,
So that's
that's
why
right.
it's important to register early.
understand, I
Make sure
understand.
we have those T-shirts for you when you come.
So Saturday, September the 16th, Constance Wharf Park and Marina. If you see a sea of purple,
That's
then
us.
you know you're at the right place. It's a dead giveaway right there.
Right.
But where's the walk going to go? I mean, and again, we're not talking, it's not a race.
No, it's not a
that.
race. No, it's a very.
We're racing to a cure.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah.
But at the same
No
time,
competition
that's
here.
right.
That's
That's
right.
right. But
Yeah.
it's just simply a casual, nice event.
Right.
Get out there again. You're showing your support to, again, as the namesake says, you're trying to end Alzheimer's. Is what we're trying to do.
People can do either a 1 mile or 3 mile
Okay,
walk throughout
so
the beautiful
perfect.
town of Suffolk,
Exactly.
and take their time in doing that. And we'll be cheerleading them on when
Right.
they leave, and greeting them enthusiastically when they return.
Very good.
And so it's just a wonderful way to, again, we always know what's good for the heart is good for the brain.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So walking is a great way to, again, take those easy preventative measures
Yes.
to create a solid foundation no matter what might come your way.
Perfect. All right. Well, great. Two couldn't have put it better than that. I appreciate your time today. Mayor Johnson, Gino Columbara, talking about the Walk to End Alzheimer's, again, Saturday, September 16th, right here in the city of Suffolk. A great event, great cause, and again, want to encourage everyone to go out there and participate. So again, thank you for both being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, most
Enjoyed it.
definitely.
And that will do it for this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. We'll see you next time.